So welcome to the continued coverage of the walkthrough series, and in this video we are going to be looking at the alternative solution to question 2 of May-June 2024 variant 4.1. This is the paper right here. So the reason why I'm doing this alternative is because the first solution that I did, I made use of a default array in Java. Then the code was rather long. And there's an alternative way through which you can use the ArrayList class in Java, and that one is a bit shorter, and also ArrayLists are more flexible than arrays. So this is why I'm just going to show you this alternative solution, which requires you to make use of the ArrayList method. So as before, our program reads data from a text file, splits the data depending on its contents, and stores the separated data in different text files, or different files this way. Then the data.txt file contains 72 lines of code as it were. So basically, I'm just going to skip ahead the preamble here. You can always read it at your own leisure. So we are going to create a function called read data that does the following things, or that satisfies the following requirements. Let me just repeat here. It satisfies this set of requirements, is it? So it's going to prompt the user to enter a file name, read the name of the file, open the file, and then populate a 1D array, as it were, for 7 marks. So let's go ahead and look at the implementation. Then the other thing that I'm also going to mention here is that this solution, it makes use of a lot of imports, right? It has more imports than the previous solution that I did that makes use of arrays. But I wanted to show you that for these imports that you see here from lines 2 to line 6, you can just substitute those or those imports by just making use of the wild character. So what the wild character does is that on line 1 there you see that I have a comment which says import then java.io, then we have that asterisk or the star and the semicolon right there. So essentially what this does is it's just going to import everything inside of the IO package, is it? So you see that inside of the java.io package, we have the buffered reader, we have the buffered writer, we have the file reader, we also have the file writer, and we also have the IO exception classes inside of that particular package. So in order for us to just import everything, we can just make use of the wild character. So what I can actually do in this case is I can comment out all these lines. Then you see that my code now has a bunch of errors popping up, is it? So I can just quickly uncomment this line, and you see that the errors will quickly go away, and just save there. Okay, yeah. So you see that the errors have now gone away. The reason being, we are now importing everything inside of the Java IO package. So back in the day, it used to raise performance issues, but nowadays Java has been optimized over the years, and it's no longer really a problem. So there's no impact on the performance of your program if you import every class that is contained inside of a particular package. So since we've done that, I'll just leave them commented out like this, because it's never a good idea to delete lines of code. You can always comment them out, then that way your compiler is just going to ignore everything. Okay, so the read data function, right? We are using the buffered reader. Then maybe the only different thing also, since we are using an array list in this case, we are now using an input stream reader, the input stream reader class on line 15. So we are actually creating two objects. We are creating an input stream reader object, and we are also creating a buffered reader object called reader. Then on line 16, so the input stream reader it's more geared towards working with array lists, unlike the file reader, the file writer, or the file reader class that we looked at in the previous solution, or in the alternative solution, as it were. Then on line 16, we are creating an array list called data list. You can always check out my Java series where I go through where I go into more detail about array lists. But essentially, you just need to remember that the only difference between an array and an array list is that an array list can grow and shrink dynamically, whereas an array is static. So on line 17 to 28, we are prompting the user to type in the file name. Then we are using the reader object to read the line or to read the keyboard input. Then we are now taking that file name and using the file reader object to open a file that has that particular name, and we are now passing that object to the file reader object, which is then going to read the current line right here on line 22. Then if the line is not null, we are going to essentially just add that particular line inside of the data list array list right here. Then this is going to happen until we no longer have anything in the file. Then we are going to close the file reader object. Then in the event that we are unable to read the file, we are going to output this message right here. Then one thing that you can also do is you can also make use of the exception classes. So you can go exception, print line, then you can make use of the exception object you create on line 26 there. So what you can do now is you can use the get method, the get message method, is it for you to be able to have a detailed description of the error that occurred. So you can always do that after creating an exception object. Then of course we are returning the data list, but the way we are returning it now is we are now converting it to an array. So you see that to an array method, it's going to return an array containing all the elements from our data list. Because remember, data list is an array list, is it? And we need to convert it to an array. So we're just going to return it into an array, as it were. I think that addresses the part A of the question. So you'd go ahead and copy this code and paste it inside of your evidence document. So this is the solution to 2A. Then for 2B, we are supposed to create a procedure called split data. This is particularly in the previous solution that I did. This was the longest code for this particular solution. So let me just show you the shorter version, which makes use of ArrayList. So what we do in this case, we are going to create 6 arrays as instructed here. You see that they said we can create 6 arrays, right? That are 1D arrays with the name of the different colors. So we are creating those array list elements, and with an array list, you always have to specify the type of data type that your array list is going to store. So we are going to be storing integers. We are using the integer wrapper class, as it were. Again, you can check out my Java series. I go through all these Java concepts in more detail. Then what we are doing here from lines 42 and 40 and 66, basically, remember we have this data.txt, the data.txt file that is an integer, a comma, and the name, the color, and it goes on to the next line until we have 72 entries, is it? So we essentially want to split the integers from the color names, and if an integer is accompanied by a color name, we are going to take that integer and store that inside of a file that is that in an array rather, that is that name. So for instance, in this first example, we are going to take this 10 and store it inside of an array called red. In the second line, we are going to take 20 and store it inside of an array called green. In the third example, or rather on the third line, we are going to take this 10 and store it inside of the array called blue, and so forth and so on. So in essence, that is what we are doing right here, right? We are going to split our data where there is a comma. Then we are going to take that integer and store it in the first element. Then we take the color and take it inside of this string called color right here. So essentially, when we split our data, what's happening is that inside of an array, actually let me just think that's out from the previous line. The array is something like this, is it? So it's going to take, this is the index position 0, then this is index position 1, and we are splitting where there's a comma there. So if you look here, that's what we're doing. We're taking the part that is 0 and the part that is parts 0 and parts 1. So parts 1, that's the string, is going to color. Then part 0, that will be number, and it goes inside of number. Then in the case that color is red, right, it's going to add that number inside of the red array list, as it were. Then in the case that it is green, it's going to add that number inside of the green array list, and so forth and so on. So we are going to do it for all the numbers, as it were. Having done that, you can go ahead and copy your code and paste it inside of the evidence document. So you see that this solution is a bit shorter than the one that I did using a default array. So that's the beauty of using an array list, because you no longer need to resize the arrays, as it were, because it's dynamic. It's dynamically sized. It means that it can grow and shrink as and when needed. Then part C says here that we have to write program code for the store data function that does these things. Again, I just wanted to show you the alternative solution to this one, so I'm not going to be reading everything here. You can always pause the video and read the question, then compare with the code. So for part 2D, actually part 2C, we are moving on to this store data function. It's going to take an array list as in it's supposed to be a small letter here, so that I follow the Java convention. So it means I need to change it here also. Data store. So yeah, that's it. All right. So we have the array list called data store, and we have the file name. Right. Then we are opening the file and appending the data inside of the file, as it were. Then, if should there be an error with writing to the file, we are simply using the exception, the IO exception. Is it? And remember, I said about you can just make use of the exception object and get the message, so that in the case that you're in an exam, you don't really know why the file is not being returned to, you can use the get message function for you to get a descriptive description, descriptive description. Okay, yeah, that's new. Anyway, you get a description of what the error really is, as it were. Yeah, so you go ahead and copy this code and paste it inside of the evidence document. Then this split data now, we simply need to, for part D, we are simply calling store data inside of split data. That's what we're doing in essence. So you see that here, we are this is supposed to be 2D. Let's call this one 2D. So we are storing data inside in the respective file. So if for the red array list, we are storing that inside of the red.txt. For the green, we are doing the same, and so forth and so on. Then, so we will call store data 6 times, but each time passing a different array or array list, as it were, a different file name, as it were. Then for just doing that, you get 2 marks. Then in the main program, we are going to call store data and read data. Split data and read data, rather, not store data and read data. So remember, read data retains an array list, or rather an array, right? That's what we specified right here at the end. We are converting our array list into an array. So we are taking that array that has been returned by read data, and we are storing it inside of this data array. Then next thing is to call split data with that array that we specified in line 92 right here. So we are going to pass it as an argument to the split data function. And you will be done with this part of the question. Then you move on to test your program and input the data when prompted, is it? So let me just go ahead and demonstrate that my program works right here. So I'm just going to go ahead into these files and just delete everything. So go into Orange and delete. So the reason why I've output in these files is because I've done the solution before, but using an array, as it were. So let me just go ahead and delete couple of files. I deleted how many? 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. Where's the other files? Oh yeah, this blue. Let me just go ahead and delete the contents in blue, and then also in green as well. All right. So now that all our files are clean, they no longer have any information, or they no longer have any entries, we can go ahead and test our program to see if it is splitting the data, reading the data from this file, splitting it, and then storing it inside of these respective arrays. So let me just go ahead and close out of the file explorer there. Open the console, make sure that I have nothing going on in there. Then let me just go ahead and run this program. So you see that we won't get anything down there in the console, as it were. Actually, we are just supposed to import the text file. Then our program should terminate like that, is it? So it appears that nothing has happened, but when you come now to the files, you remember that I cleared the files before I ran this program. So when I come into red.txt, you actually see now that we have that data going on. And if we go back into orange, you see that we have those numbers there. Go into yellow, you see that we now have these numbers, is it? So essentially, our program is working and it's satisfying all the requirements, as it were. Again, this was just to show you an alternative approach of using ArrayList. And so you can choose which way you would want to go, ArrayLists or making use of arrays in when you are implementing your solutions. So yeah, I think that's just about it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.